Ohio State's going to host the trophy.
Wow.
I think Notre Dame is going to absolutely mollywop Ohio State.
They haven't mollywopped anybody this year.
One of the most shocking things I think I've seen in PLL history was Chris Cav's drop.
Welcome back. Episode 15 of the Mitchell Pehlke Lacrosse Show on the Lacrosse Network. Probably the biggest episode yet. We're not even going to get into the subjects, the segments. Did Army get snubbed? Like, we're going to dive right into the meat. Did Army get snubbed?
Absolutely not. No.
Don't think so.
Absolutely not.
What are we talking about?
Why are we even talking about this? Seriously.
What do we think?
Why is this even why are we even talking about this?
People talk about respecting the troops, however, we respect the nerds and what they've done this season. I mean, like everyone, like this is the revenge of the nerds right now. The Ivy League somehow getting disrespected. 2022, Donna, the Ivy Leagues, they get everyone in, and now everyone's like, is the Ivy that good? What about the Patriot League and all that? If you like, it's asinine seeing everybody on Instagram and Twitter being like, Army should have gotten in. I don't care about the eye test. I don't care about the media poll. Shout out to every media member that does the Kane media poll. Kev, I don't know if you have a vote. I don't know who here has a vote. I don't. Only been doing 2 top 100 lacrosse podcasts for 5 years. I don't get a vote, but everyone wants to make it seem that rankings matter during the regular season. That does not matter. What matters is what you do on the field. And if you took up what Army has done on the field, there is literally nothing in their resume that points that they should be in the tournament. Not
Bingo.
one single thing that they've done.
Bingo.
No, there isn't. And I think, you know what, if you want to say to Army, you know, I wish they got in. I wish they got a shot to get in. Like, you feel bad because you think they deserve a chance at competing. That's fair. But to say like they actually should be in is ridiculous.
And
it's two different things. It's two different things.
I do not understand when people are saying like Army could win the national championship.
No.
Cool, that's your opinion. What have they done this season that's proven that they're championship material?
They lost in the Patriot League semifinals for the second straight year on their own home field to a inferior Patriot League team. So
inferior.
They haven't even made their conference championship game in 2 years. Would I love to see Army in the NCAA tournament? 100%. Do I think they could beat someone in round one if they had a good matchup? 100%. Could they make a run if the matchups were right? 100%. But for the people out there complaining that they should have been in and they got robbed of an opportunity is completely outrageous. Their whole resume was a 1 win over North Carolina, who was the 8th seed in the tournament. That cannot carry your entire season. Their best wins besides that was Rutgers, who had a losing record, and Yale, who had a losing record. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not going to cut it. In a league like the Patriot League, you're not getting 2 bids. You can't beat Boston during the regular season. You can't beat Colgate. I'm sorry, there's not a spot for you. It's just the truth.
I don't know how you're saying it's using the words ridiculous and outrageous, though. When I see you come out with a top 20 on Twitter every week, and you had Army in your top 5, I think maybe even high as 2. Some of the season.
The highest I ever had them at was 4, and I was pretty patient.
What were they at last week?
I didn't do a media poll last week, so I didn't do it.
Why?
Yeah.
No specific reason. I mean, this time of year, the polls don't matter.
Why not? Were you
Look,
nervous?
Hoagie, you want to be
Donna was lurking.
Well, I'm telling you, they were top 5, and I know you understand the RPI, and and everyone on this podcast understands resumes.
First of all, I didn't have.
You got to look at the average fan. The average fan is watching lacrosse, sees Army with a number 5 or higher next to their name all season.
Yeah,
and then they only have 2 losses, and then they have to understand. Like, why aren't they in the tournament? I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's ridiculous that Instagram commenters don't understand the RPI.
For me, when I look at it,
So Kev, you think they should be in it?
No, because to be honest, I think that Army just needs to take care of business. What we're talking about is the reaction to it. When you're talking about Army all year as a top 5 team, and then all of a sudden they're not in the tournament, a lot of fans who are just casual fans, of course, are going to be confused by that. And not going to understand why.
So Army, it was the same situation with Notre Dame in 22.
But Kev, I'm going to push you back on this a little bit. Who ranked the number 5? Like, the reason that the number 5 is the media members that, I'm going to call a spade, do not know what the hell they are talking about. Just because they think they're a top 5 in the country. What did Army do this year besides go 12-2, beating up on St. Mary's School of the Blind, that we're going to say, oh, okay, yeah, that's a top 5 team in the country? Again, their best win was at home against UNC. Not even the best UNC team we've seen in the past 5 years. A good UNC team, 1 goal at home. Harvard goes to the Carrier Dome, one of the hardest places to play in the country, knocks off Cuse on the road. That's a better win. If you want to match up, and then they beat the brakes over BU. I know that they both
And
lost
they
to
beat
Colgate.
Michigan too. And they beat Michigan.
They both
I
lost
got
to
it.
Colgate. Fair, but again, Harvard took care of business against BU. A
Yes.
team
Okay.
they haven't been able to beat in the
But
past.
going back
Got
to
you.
my point, Kev, like you said about like how like why are they ranked so high, or if I had them at 4, 5, 6 over the last couple weeks, I equate Army almost in this stage to like a Group of 5 Power 5 team in college football. Boise State, if they go undefeated as the weeks go on, they're going to slowly creep up the rankings. I'm willing to forgive Army for an overtime loss by 1 goal to Boston, who was a borderline top 20 team all year. It's hard to stay perfect. They won every game in front of them. If Army had won out, they're in the tournament. But the minute that you lose to Colgate at home in your conference semifinal, that's where you go from in the top 10 to out in 1 second. Kind of like Boise State. You can go undefeated the whole way and you lose in your Mountain West Conference Championship. See ya. You're out of the New Year's Six. So there's just no margin for error.
I understand that. And I've been one saying all year that the Patriot League is a one bid league. And I don't think that ever changed at any point in the season, even when Army was hot and rolling and people were saying, oh, maybe they could lose in the Patriot League tournament and still get an at-large bid. I never thought that was the case. But I will say, and Hoagie, I know I talked to you last night about this on TLN Live. Why don't they have another play-in game? If Harvard and Army were playing in a play-in game on Wednesday, who are you taking in a pick'em on that game? I'm taking Army.
I'm taking Army too. I'm taking
Army.
Harvard.
Mitch?
I think I'm taking Harvard.
I'm taking Army.
Right, so we're split.
I'll take Army.
So we're split. I would take Army. And I think that's just the general sentiment. That's a sentiment that people are feeling. Is I think if you took a poll of, 100 or 1,000 random lacrosse fans and asked them who would win if they played and lined up tomorrow at a neutral site or wherever, Army or Harvard, 60, 70, 80% maybe would say Army. I'm not saying that would be right, but that's the general sentiment in lacrosse right now.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what the sentiment should be. If Harvard played Army scheduled, they would also probably be 12-2 or probably Patriot League champions, sitting at 13-1, and they'd have an offense that we'd be talking about going to this tournament, being like, "Wow, they're putting up 22 goals per game. Could they take down Cornell? Who's the best high-powered offense?" If they played that schedule, I'm not saying they did, but this would be the narrative. Sam King would be like put up legitimately Peter Baum numbers.
Dukes, and I said the same thing too, like for the people out there who feel bad because, you lost to Colgate. That's one game, shouldn't define your season. Virginia and Hopkins are sitting home and losing records right now. If they were in Army's position, they'd be undefeated, 1 loss, and in the NCAA tournament too. Right. So,
and I do really
you have to talk that too. So
I do really want to say this about Army. It stinks. They are definitely good enough to be in the tournament in general. When it comes down to who deserved it more, Harvard or Army, it's not even a thought in my mind.
Not even debatable.
Harvard's worst loss is Colgate, which Army lost to, and then the rest are to Cornell and Princeton, which is the 1 and 3 seeds. We're talking about 3 top 5 losses. They don't have bad losses. So, besides obviously the Colgate one. So, I mean, a shame, but like I've said all year, if this happens to Army, and it did, we talked about this possibility all year long.
Yep.
The one thing I always wanted to say, expand the tournament, which Kev, I didn't agree with your take on it. All right, I didn't agree with the sentiment. He said he thought the boys would beat the troops would beat the nerds. I like the revenge of the nerds.
I love that. And Dukes, I agree with you entirely on the sense that there is no argument in terms of the resume. When it comes to the resume, when it comes to what goes into getting a seed or a spot in the tournament, the committee got it right, at least on the Army-Harvard bubble issue. But yeah, give us another playing game. Let them battle it out on the field. That's what we want to see anyway.
Yeah, more games, more fun. Absolutely. Let's talk about, obviously, what's going to happen this Saturday and Sunday. The first game up, the one that came off the board, that potentially one of the best games, UNC Richmond. Who would have thought that coming into the year, right? This one's going to be interesting, and it could kind of flow both ways. Does Richmond have what it takes to do this?
Yeah, I mean, Richmond definitely does. They definitely have what it takes. They have playing a banged-up North Carolina team, and Richmond's got a fantastic defense. So,
what do we know about the injury aspect of UNC right now? Obviously, Owen Duffy's not 100%. In the college space, we don't know 100% what these guys are dealing with, but this is not a fully healthy UNC team.
No, they're not.
No, it's not. I don't think it's going to matter.
I think that UNC is kind of stumbling their way in right now. And we saw in the ACC semifinals, Duffy came out of the game kind of before everyone else did. I'm wondering, and I mentioned on TLN Live, was UNC kind of looking at that game like, hey, we're a lock to get in the tournament. Let's just kind of get out here a little early, get healthy. I don't know. Would you ever do that?
I don't think so. I mean,
No,
I
you
can tell you
can't.
right now, and when Hoagie and I were playing, that was definitely never a thought.
I don't think you
But-
could coach
No,
it. You can't.
you
Coach
can't-
can't say that.
You can't do that. You obviously you can't say that, but you also can't have that be your philosophy. And the prime example is last night, Notre Dame. If they didn't lose on Friday, they're a top 6 seed hosting first round. They lose, now they're on
Right.
the road in round 1, and that's the difference of tanking or winning that game. So there's no benefit to losing that game. There's no strategy. You got to win every game in front of you. And Notre Dame's a prime example of why you need to win every game in front of you. They went from a top 6 seed hosting to on the road in Columbus in the span of 2 days.
Dukes,
Yeah.
do you think Richmond's going to win?
I hate to teeter around it. I do not want to beat around the bush. Like, it's just one of those years where I'll say this. I think the winner of that game makes the Final Four.
Whoa.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So that means
Wow.
Cornell
Folks.
isn't making the Final Four, right?
You think
Wow.
UNC or Richmond can beat Cornell?
Why not? Richmond already almost did it. I mean, we're talking fluke twins. I know Hoagie's over there talking about fluke wins to Penn State against Cornell and all those flukes. I mean, I could make the argument that win from Cornell was a little bit fluky against Richmond. Richmond had that one in the bag for 3.5 quarters, it seemed like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And then
Can
CJ
you
Kirst took
imagine
over.
the
It's
Spiders in the
inevitable.
Final Four?
To me, this game.
Cornell's also the best offense I think I've seen since possibly. I want to.
God,
I
be
think it's
careful.
maybe the best 2015. So maybe since the Albany team, I haven't seen an offense like this. Like obviously 2022 Maryland, even like Notre Dame last year, the talent there, but I mean, they make the ball hum, and
They do. But
and I think we're gonna look back and be like, this is. I truly think this actually is the best team I've seen in a decade, offensively. But I don't think they played a decent defense in Penn State.
Yeah, to me though, when I look at this game from an outsider perspective, this reminds me of like the typical March Madness game where everyone's on Richmond,
Yep.
everyone's picking that upset, and then it doesn't end up happening. I think Richmond's going to give them a great shout. I think the difference in this game is UNC knows that everyone's on Richmond. UNC just got their literal butts kicked and played the worst game of their season last week. I think they're going to be hungry, and I think the difference is going to be Brady Wambach. I think he's going to dominate at the faceoff X. He's not going to give Richmond a chance to get ahead on too many possessions. So I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to end up taking Carolina in this game. I wouldn't be shocked if Richmond won, but I think it's
Right.
I don't think it's a shoe-in that everyone's talking about on Twitter. I feel like everyone's like Richmond. They have a great defense. UNC's banged up. Let's not forget, though, the Heels just came off a bad loss. They'll be at home. They're going to be ready to play. I think it's going to be a great game regardless.
So
but-
balanced. I love the balance on North Carolina as well, top to bottom.
I don't know. I mean,
It'll
I
be
just feel
interesting.
like UNC, they've missed their peak. Their peak already happened. Richmond, I don't think they've played a bad game all year.
Yeah, no, it's going to be exciting. Let's hop to Princeton Towson. Does Towson have any chance?
This
Battle of
game's
the
either
Tigers.
this game's either going to be a close barn burner or an absolute slaughter fest. I think it goes one to two ways. I personally think Princeton's going to blow them out,
Me
but
too.
I don't think. Unfortunately for Towson, I think they have basically
We've
no
been talking
chance.
about all year.
Not a great
CA
matchup
being the
at all.
grittiest conference.
It is the grittiest conference.
It's the grit show. We've been talking about it. I mean, I think TL and you guys put it out 5 or 4 overtime game winners.
They're 4-0 in
They're just-
overtimes.
they're
And that's what I'm saying.
squeaking out.
I know. Yeah. And like Towson did not have a hot start. And like I know they've won a lot of games in a row. I think they're tied with Cornell for the most in college lacrosse right now.
Yep.
But yeah, winning gritty, close games in the CAA is different than going to the NCAA tournament and playing Princeton, who I think they showed it in the Ivy League championship. They've got the firepower to at least go toe to toe with Cornell for 3.5 quarters. I think they've got an awesome offense and can pour it on Towson.
There's going to be a lot of music at Class of 1952 Stadium playing after a lot of goals next weekend. I don't think they have
Cody,
it
what
this
do you
year,
think the
but
final score is going to be?
the Free from Desire last year after every goal was like na 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 na. That was so sick last year.
YouTube just got
But-
copyrighted.
There's going to be a lot
Yeah,
of that next year. What'd you say, Mitch?
just detected Hoagie's beautiful voice.
What do you think the final score of that game is going to be? You
Final
think it's actually a
score?
blowout?
I think it's going to be like 16, 17, 9.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? I'm going 18-7.
I don't think so.
Oh, Duke's
I
on
don't
18.
think. I think it's
You're
within 5.
underestimating how good Princeton's offense is, and you're
Yeah.
overestimating how good Towson is. I
We'll
get
see.
it; they're on a
I agree.
10-game win streak,
We'll
and
see.
I
Let's
respect that.
not
but
forget.
played
Mitch
nobody.
Pehlke was the only one to call Syracuse to win it, the ACC tournament. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, there's
We're
difference
going to hop
calling
to
an
the Penn,
ACC
we're gonna
tournament.
hop, we're gonna hop to the Penn State Colgate game.
Yeah, now we move to the
Um,
next segment real quick there.
It's the truth. It's the truth. I don't
It
know.
is. It
Moved on
is.
quick.
What is the rankings in Pick'ems actually right now?
I'm in the lead here, so if you want to
Yeah,
doubt
we can-
anyone, can't
Keep
doubt
going,
mine.
Mitch. Keep going. Keep rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kev, we're getting seriously concerned about your rankings. Penn
Who's
State
won an
versus
ACC championship more recent? Was it Miami in football or Syracuse in lacrosse?
We haven't gotten to the old takes yet.
Miami's never
Yeah,
won
yeah,
an ACC championship game, actually. So they have Ohio State football.
be
is the
careful
same
fact
ACC
checking the fact
championship
checker.
as Miami.
Penn State Colgate, is this similar to the Princeton Towson game? Is there any chance here?
I think this will be a little bit of a closer game. I definitely think Colgate's got
Like
a
a
shot.
chance, like, Duke, do you think Colgate's going to win? Like, when we talk brackets here in 20 minutes, you think Colgate's going to win?
Absolutely not. No. You asked me if they had a chance. Like, yeah, there's a chance I
gonna
don't
be a
get up
closer
tomorrow
game,
morning.
yeah.
There's a chance the sun doesn't come out.
Okay,
but
Jesus.
There's chances every day, Mitch. We take chances all the time.
There is a lot of chances.
Yeah, Penn State will probably win this one by like 5+. I mean, I do. I think that we're all kind of on the same page with Penn State with how good they are. You don't know what Colgate team you're going to get. This is a high-powered offense, but I don't think that they play the defense like Penn State, the athletes, the men that they're going to play on this field. And there's levels to this.
Yes.
You guys know,
Yeah.
Big Ten boys over there. Mitch, look at that jersey in the back. You know what that Penn State defense can do to your soul?
Drop that
They
stick.
played
man.
each other. They played each other to start the season this year, and Penn
Yep.
State whooped them. But they also did the year before, and Colgate snuck one
lose
on
to
them.
'em.
And,
Yeah.
and so, like Duke said, anything could happen. I just feel like, we just saw Colgate upset, shock Penn State like within the last 2 years. So I don't know. I think they'll be ready for them. They're two teams that should be familiar with each other.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing though. Colgate's going to go into that game and not be mesmerized at all. It's a lot of these games when a team like Colgate gets to play like a Maryland for their first round, it's kind of a cool experience. Oh, I'm going to play at Maryland against Maryland. Like they're familiar. They've played a Panzer multiple times before. They won last year, so they're kind of going in just like it's any other game that they've played at any point this year or last year. I do think Colgate plays that fun, fast-paced offense, and when they're rocking, they can beat you. But I just think Penn State's going to be ready for it. I don't know if Colgate's really going to be able to keep that magic kind of rolling, if that makes sense. And I don't know. I'm looking for Penn State to really anchor down my perception on them and really have a good showing. But I think the score will be much closer. I think this game's like a 13-8, 13-9 type game.
Yeah, and the Connor brothers for Colgate. This isn't even going to be the biggest game they've ever played in. They played in the Woodstick Classic. Garden City even has it for years. So this isn't even the biggest game they've ever played into. So the lights won't be too bright for those fellas.
Did you play in that game back in the day?
Oh yeah, Mitch.
How many did you
Oh,
have?
yeah. Mitch, I didn't play attack. My goalie the goalies weren't wearing shin pads. You know what I mean? I know what they were doing in Northern Virginia. We saw that highlight tape. Roll that.
Riverside High School, best high school in America. Duke versus Georgetown. Can Georgetown continue the hotness? Hoagie said, I think last episode, death, taxes, Big East champs.
Yeah.
Can they do it though?
7 straight Big East champs for Georgetown.
Unreal.
Look,
That's
I don't
crazy.
know what type of intervention happened after they scored 3 goals against Denver a couple weeks back, but ever since that moment, something's changed, something's clicked. That offense has been absolutely electric, and Georgetown's playing their best ball of the season the last 3 weeks. So, look, to me, when I look at this game, I think Georgetown's going to play well. To me, it's going to come down to what Duke shows up. Is it the Duke that showed up Friday night against Carolina that looked unreal, or is it the Duke that we've seen throughout most of the year? So,
Yeah.
it's a night game. It's the Saturday night game. So
What are
the
you
lights are
smiling
gonna be
at,
on
Duke?
Koskinen.
Fellas. The Duke Blue Devils have found their
Oh
identity.
God.
They have
Here we go.
found their identity. I think they've come in.
Do you
to
think
be, I think
Paul Herrera is wrong?
Caputo has that defense figured out a little bit down there in Durham, Mitch. And I like the Duke Blue Devils to make the Final Four.
Wow.
I think this is going to be one of those. I think it's a bad matchup for Maryland. You want to talk about like how Maryland likes to play their ball? That's kind of Duke's identity right now. I love their first midfield unit. I love McAdory to attack. You don't know what McAdory always going to get down low, but that defense can be really grinded out. I think they could give Maryland some fits. I see that one being tight, like 8-7. So if they get by Georgetown, which Hoagie alluded to, they're playing their best ball, and Aiden Carroll's an absolute dog. He's a PLL prospect. He might get drafted, or he might have already got drafted if this comes out Wednesday. Yeah, he might have already gotten drafted last night. He probably already got drafted, but I like Duke to make the Final Four. I like them.
So when we see your bracket, that's what you're gonna put on there.
I was all Maryland, and then I dug some numbers up, and I was like, I think I'm like,
What'd you dig up?
It's a lock for Maryland in the
Mitch,
Final Four,
Mitch,
though.
Come on, I'm not gonna try to explain these numbers to you.
You're
That's
gonna
a
have a
lot.
crazy Final Four, dudes.
Yeah, I
You're
know.
gonna have a
You're
crazy
thinking-
Final
I'm
Four.
I'm thinking about doing something.
Which
I
would-
might do
you're
something.
This is either going to
Big
have the
one
best
or-
bracket and be 100% correct or the worst bracket of all time. It looks like there's no
Yeah,
in between
I'm
here.
It's looking
throwing,
like it's gonna
I'm
be the
throwing
worst.
against some walls right now. I'm trying to put.
And
some,
again, for the
some things
fans out
together.
there, you guys get to decide what the loser does. So continue to watch, see our brackets, and the loser is going to do the top comment on this video.
Dude's
So
already said
uh,
Cornell's not in the Final Four, too. So.
yeah. So you got to stick by your guns.
Yeah.
Got to stick by your guns. I'm a little nervous now.
What am I nervous about?
You nervous?
To do a YouTube comment?
He's going to get an Ohio State Buckeyes
last one
tramp
was a
stamp.
Michigan tramp stamp.
He's
so-
going to get an Ohio State tramp stamp.
We can't be doing that.
I don't make enough for that.
All right, let's talk Sunday's game. Probably the biggest game. What I want to talk about: Ohio State and Notre Dame. Hoagie. Let's start with the Buckeyes because we deserve it. Big Ten champs. I was on the
Congratulations.
sideline. It was an insane environment. Nick Myers deserves it more than anyone else. But did we get kind of shafted?
Look, we got shafted on the matchup. That's 100% correct. There's no debating it. There's no arguing it. But look, it is what it is. It's how the criteria works. It's how the selection committee does it, and geography takes precedence. So, I think, for Ohio State, this is your matchup. So you can either sulk and say we got screwed and all that, or you can say, you know what, which I think Coach Meyer is going to do, and say you guys are downright disrespected. Like, go prove it and send them home, kind of vibe. So.
100%.
Look, for
Oh,
me,
it's
I know you're Dukes. I know you're on the Notre Dame
Perfect.
side. Kev, let's go to you first. Where do you land with this? Ohio State gets shafted. Obviously, we talk RPI. It's
Yeah,
obviously
I
the right
mean,
call, but what do you
it's obviously a super unfortunate draw that they got, and I think that there's, they win the Big Ten regular season championship, they win the Big Ten tournament, and then you see on the bracketology screen, or not the bracket reveal, you see them right next to Penn State, who gets Colgate in the first round, and then the team that they beat in the Big Ten championship, Maryland, gets the winner of Robert Morrison Air Force. It doesn't feel fair. But I will say, there's one team, I don't know if there's a team that my perception changed of them more than Notre Dame this weekend. I, for all year, have been saying Notre Dame's a team that's going to get it together. They'll get it together when it matters. And then they kind of laid an egg in the ACC tournament. And if they're not playing their best ball when it matters now, I don't know if they're going to turn it on in the NCAA tournament, especially against an Ohio State team that's going to be as pissed off as they are at Ohio State. Ohio State already beat Notre Dame at Arlada.
At Notre Dame. Yep.
I actually feel like this is a matchup that is very winnable for Ohio State. They've already done it once in a tougher environment. I think they're a better team than they were then. They should have all the confidence in the world after being the first team, in my opinion, to break Maryland's defense. I wouldn't even be worried about Notre Dame. I mean, I know that it's back-to-back NCAA champs, but if I'm Ohio State, that's a game I should win and probably will win.
Okay.
For the record, they're underdogs in this game, and I think Notre Dame is going to absolutely mollywop Ohio State.
They haven't mollywopped anybody this year.
There's no
Oh,
way.
yeah.
There's no way they mollywop. If you want
I
to,
think
Dukes, if you want to have a take that says Notre Dame, if you want to have a take,
Bully,
no,
bully,
that's crazy.
bully,
That is
bully
crazy.
ball, bully ball.
You know who bullied them?
Yes.
Ohio State bullied their ass in South Bend a couple months ago. How about that? When was that? When was that? We want to talk about Richard Daly.
One by one.
21 sa-
One by one. One by
21
one.
saves, so that bad boy would have got
champs.
ugly.
Back daddy champs.
21 or that would have got ugly.
Kiss the ring. Kiss the ring.
I want to hear your general thoughts. General thoughts.
Look, if Ohio State was the 4 seed and they got Ohio State, they'd be like, thank God, what an easy matchup. And I see the Ohio State boys on here crying, be like, oh my God, we have to play Notre Dame again. This is so unfair. Notre Dame doesn't care that they have to play Ohio State. You want to win a national championship like these boys? You got to play the best in the business. And all I see is a bunch of tears right now that you guys have to go play the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame and crying because they lost to Syracuse. Who cares that they lost to Syracuse? Who cares that they lost in the ACC tournament? We're coming again. See you in Gillette. I cannot wait.
I just think it's nutsack crazy. You think they're going to blow them out?
No, it's it really. No, they're not actually gonna blow them out.
You can't back up on your take.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah, this is
What's a
crazy.
blowout in lacrosse? What's a blowout in lacrosse? What's a blowout in lacrosse?
I would say anything over 7.
Okay, no. I was going like 3.
Look,
You
the way I look at this game, to be honest with you, as much as Ohio State had to play a team like Notre Dame in the first round, and I did some research back. The last time a 4 seed played an Ivy, Big Ten, or ACC team in the first round was 2015 when Denver played Brown in the first round. Denver actually went on to win the national championship that year, so maybe some foreshadowing there.
But
But look,
social media short form clip.
for me, Ohio State, when I look at Ohio State, honestly, I couldn't have looked at two teams, meaning Notre Dame, and then if they win and played Penn State, that I would rather play those two teams stylistically wise. Those are two of the better teams that Ohio State matches up with in the entire field. I don't want to play Syracuse in the quarterfinals. I don't want to play a team like that. So if you were telling me to pick two teams to play to get me to Gillette, it would be Penn State and it would be Notre Dame based on the similar styles, the pace, how we play the game. I think we match up great versus both of those teams. So that's the flip side on it. Look, Ohio State's got to regroup and say, we got screwed, but it doesn't matter. You can't say it. No one cares. No one's going to cry for you. When this comes out on Wednesday, people are going to not feel sorry for you on Wednesday. It's come show up Sunday, whoop their ass, send Notre Dame home, or that's how it's going to be. So, look, it's going to be a great crowd. I think actually there's more pressure now on Notre Dame now that people are, everyone's switching the bets. Notre Dame's favorite now. Ohio State open -1.5. All the money's on Notre Dame's. Notre Dame's now the favorite. Look, Notre Dame's a two-time defending national champion. Notre Dame's the one going on the road in Columbus. Ohio State's the one who feels disrespected and slighted. So, look, I think Ohio State's going to come out and have a prove-it game and not be scared of Notre Dame one bit. And I think Notre Dame, I think they're fragile right now, and I think one punch to the mouth and they're going to crack.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any Kavanaugh in the world that's like gets punched in the face and is going to fall down on the field. And
I don't think.
Not
I
get back
agree.
up.
I think we all agree.
Yeah, so I think
Bobby Van Buren locked him up last time. They're going to do it again. That's how it's going to be. I think Kavanaugh is going to be taken out of the game. It's going to come from the midfield. It's going to come from Angrick. It's going to come from Jordan Fajon trying to play offensively. Chris is going to get his goal and his assist, maybe 2 goals. But I think effectively Notre Dame's going to have to find someone else to create offense.
Disrespectful to Kavanaugh the past couple weeks and the past couple months.
There's no disrespect. He had 1 goal last time. I think Bobby's a first team.
It seems like the past couple months you've been a little bit disrespectful to Chris.
Is Bobby not a first team All-American defender?
I'm not. Everyone knows listening to this podcast, I'm not the biggest Buckeye guy. But when it comes down to Bobby Van Buren, I mean, I would love to take him out, but like the guy probably hates me for what I've said to the Buckeyes. That guy, he's unbelievable. But I think Ohio State's defensive unit, I think Big Tasty right now is playing like the best goalie in the country. Their whole defensive unit in general is really good. I think top 3 unit in the country. Notre Dame's defense, though, has from the last time that they played, I think this is a unit that's getting better and better every single week. Cuse definitely has their number. Like just something that they couldn't figure out about them. But overall, their unit, I think, has gotten better week over week. And I think they're going to be hungry for a revenge game.
And look, would I be shocked? Would I be shocked if Notre Dame won this game? No, Notre Dame absolutely could win this game. Notre Dame's, if they put it together, one of the best teams in the country, and on any given day, of course they can beat Ohio State. Of course they can win this game. And then we're talking next week, and Dukes is laughing at us saying, "I told you so." And Kavanaugh,
no, it's not. I told you. It's not. I told you so. It's like when I expect greatness. I think
everyone's like OSU is feed them to the wolves right now. They're toast, but I don't think it should be that way personally.
I think Notre Dame was just figuring out their offense, and Matt Jeffrey goes down in the Penn game, and he was a big part of what they were doing out of the midfield. They switched things up. I don't know. I just don't love where Notre Dame feel like they're kind of starting over again a little bit. But speaking of getting punched in the mouth, heard someone say that earlier, in Ohio State, Mitch, you got a number of how many teeth did Gannon Matthews got going into
crazy.
This game?
This was actually crazy. So I'm on the sidelines. He gets hit, scores, comes running over to the sideline. Seth Faulkner, legend, Ohio State athletic trainer, tells me, yeah, he's got a bloody nose. I'm like, all right, so I report. Gannon Matthews took a big hit, got a bloody nose, changed from 24 to 32. He's back in the game. I see him after the game. This guy has his 2 front teeth are cracked in half, and his bottom tooth is missing. And he has to go, I think he's got surgery like today to get his teeth fixed. But it just shows you the physicality of Big Ten ball and the rivalry of Ohio State, Maryland. It definitely runs deep.
Time, Mitch. I love that clip when you interviewed Coach.
And that's Nick Myers to the team.
And then at the end when he goes, that's Buckeye Lacrosse. You know all about this. I got to go. And the look, he gives you those eyes like come on. Let's score up.
Because another aspect, too, that the fans don't know is like mid-quarter interviews like that doesn't really happen in the sport of lacrosse. Really when you get to like the Final Four. So that was something new. We did Myers at the end of the first, Tillman at the end of the third, and it just kind of worked out perfectly. And that's not really a question you would really ask, but I just wanted to kind of get the engines
Tillman,
going.
Mitch? Did you ask him what the game plan was, that he couldn't call that Ohio State was all wearing the same color gloves, so how they approached it after the blitzing?
No.
Or what else did you
honestly, I think I'd asked him about the face-off play, but I don't know. At the end of the day, like that game, and Hoagie and I have played in it tons of times. I think besides the rivalry of Michigan, that was the one we always wanted just because we had so many relationships with friends and everything. And it was cool to see, being on the sidelines, reporting that game, like was such a full circle moment that I just posted on Instagram. But to see Nick, to see those guys win it was really exciting.
Yeah, you did a great job. I thought that was great reporting. Great work, awesome sideline reporting. I'm being dead serious.
No, I appreciate
the story,
that.
Followed up with the interview with the coach, took the story to the next level. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I hope it's something that continues to be a part of big lacrosse games. Obviously, we see Pehlke do it every year at championship weekend, but for some of these bigger games, I think it's kind of mandatory. Like, people want to hear what's going on in the sidelines. Like I talked about, Maryland came off. They're like, Ohio State keeps slipping picks. Like, we got to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, hey, we should talk about this. The audience probably wants to know what they're hearing down low. So just little things like that. But obviously, we can continue to move forward. Maryland, with where they are supplemented into this bracket, do we think that is fair? Kev, you just alluded to it. Obviously, where Ohio State is, where Penn State is, and then obviously where Maryland is, and Ohio State just beating them.
Yeah, I told Hoagie this, but like Maryland has the most Teflon resume. Like, they have so many top tier wins that they're the team that can weather a loss the most. And I know people are upset about that, and it looks weird when you lose the Big Ten tournament and then you're ranked ahead of the team you lost to. But if you look at the wins are the wins. And Maryland does have an incredible resume overall. I think there are some things that should go into it, and not to get further into resume and stuff like that, but like wins in February and March shouldn't count as much as a win yesterday or a win 3 days ago. I'm a what have you done for me lately kind of guy. Teams get hot. They go on runs. I think that should be factored in a little bit. And I'm not saying Maryland wasn't hot. And I actually think that this is wherever producer Matty Ice is right now, this would have been the time for him to drop the line that we talked about. This is when lacrosse season starts for Maryland.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point too. I don't know if you saw the clip of Tillman congratulating Coach Myers after the game, and you know, obviously Tillman wants to win every game he plays, but in his mind, he's like, look, like this game essentially really doesn't mean anything in the long run. Like the championship starts now. So for Maryland, I think
Kevin Connery.
He did.
It was a big difference, like pretty big difference in post-game handshake. Was it not?
True. Hey, he likes the Buckeyes.
A little bit. A little bit. I think also when you were talking about what Maryland, like the what have you done for me recently thing, if you're looking at also just like comparing Ohio State to Maryland, as we're talking about like the general lacrosse fan, when you're looking at it from the outside looking in, you could probably be tricked into being like, this makes no sense. Ohio State got hosed. But when you do look at like Ohio State, if you're looking at their non-con, they took care of business in conference play. Yeah. But I mean, outside of the conference, they almost have an Army like out of conference schedule. If they lose that Notre Dame game, that Notre Dame game was probably critical for them when it comes down to seeding. They were still going
to make the tournament either way.
No, I'm not saying that.
Seeding was 100%. I guess Virginia was down this year. Denver was down this year, and then they lightened up the load a little bit at the top, taking off Cornell and UNC and adding, Bellarmine and like Detroit or whatever. We always play Detroit, but they added someone else, Bellarmine, and I can't really remember, but someone else at the top. But Bryant, that's what it is, Mitch. Sorry. It's actually crazy though, because Maryland actually strengthened their resume by losing. They gained a top 5 win by losing rather than winning that game, which is crazy to think about too. But look, Ohio State would have a case to be the number 1 team in the country if they didn't lose to Utah week 1. They would have a legit argument to be the number 1 overall seed in this tournament. So I guess that just shows you how big of a deal RPI is and the criteria, and why Maryland is number 2 and Ohio State's at 4, and how big of, the RPI and the wins and all its strength of schedule, all that stuff actually really does matter in our sport.
Yeah, I'm a big on full body of work. Like, I know Kev's what have you done for me recently? I do think that the February games have to be considered. Like, you have to take into consideration.
But they were Maryland. I feel like they built their whole resume in their out of conference. They were a 4-3 team at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think the only caveat to say to that,
quality wins and quality losses.
The only caveat to that, Kev, is like, obviously you're going to play your conference games at the end. So like, they have to play the ACC and Ivy Leagues at the beginning of the year. So like, those still got to count just as much.
Look, I saw Twitter fingers today. I saw Twitter fingers today when it came down to Army, that there was, this is a nameless, faceless account that probably has Coach Joe Spallina blocked on Twitter. It was one of those burners.
Yeah.
But someone was saying, and you again take this with a grain of salt, that Army had the chance to schedule Cuse later on in the year because there was a conflict in the beginning of the season with
That's a clown. There's no way that they
that Army didn't want to
later in the year.
Army didn't want to schedule Cuse in the middle of
no
conference play.
shot. That's bogus. No chance.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know if it's that crazy.
Dude, they're not going to schedule
don't
them
know.
late in the year.
Yeah.
Oh,
why-
you
why
mean
would they
like
do
at
that?
the beginning of the
after
year? You're
conference
saying
play?
like when
They were
they
supposed
made
to play Cuse in the beginning of the season, and then there's a conflict at the Carrier Dome, and then
Oh,
they
I
had the
got you.
option to play later in the year. And Alberici was like, "I don't want to play."
Oh, that's my fault, dude. I
Cuse
thought you were
in
saying
conference
like
play.
I thought you were saying like in February they're like let's just add it on at the end of the year. No, you're
No,
saying
no,
when they
no.
made the original schedule
Right,
that
right.
it was
And then
supposed
they
to be
added-
tentative for the
They added
February or
Mercer
March.
instead,
Yeah.
and they played Mercer in Naples. And someone did I think Pat McEwen, lacrosse nerd, he did like an RPI thing where it was like if they just didn't play Mercer, RPI would have been the same.
100%. You
Wow.
shouldn't have even played that
It
game.
went up or down.
There's no reason to play that game if you're Army. It doesn't help you. It doesn't do
So
anything
crazy.
for you.
I mean, I know we
Respect the
talked
Mercer
about it
Hive.
a lot. We talk about it. I think we talked about it in the beginning of season 2 of just like when these coaches sit down to make their schedule, it matters so much, and you kind of really want to put your team through the gauntlet because at the end of the day, like I know we talked about Michigan a couple weeks ago, like having almost a losing record, still having a better RPI than the Buckeyes. So it's crazy to think. Let's
even looking
segue
too-
into that
really
Syracuse
quick.
game.
yeah.
Why doesn't Richmond like? I never understood this when it was talking about wrestlers. Why didn't Richmond and Army just play each other? Like, why don't they just like?
Well, who would have
like,
thought?
But who would have thunk
Who would
it?
have thought?
I mean, you're talking about two programs, like not on the rise. I'm not gonna say like Army or Richmond's on the rise, but like two teams that are right in that RPI like 10 to 15 range. I feel like for the past couple of years, like a St. Joe's even. No, St. Joe's kind of fell apart at the end of the
St.
year.
Joe's is not going to get
why
you in the
not try to
tournament,
do it?
though.
What?
Beating St. Joe's is not going to get you into the NCAA tournament.
I kind of would disagree.
That's crazy.
No,
I
That's
mean,
crazy. Beating St.
it's better
Joe's
than
is
playing
not going to
Mercer.
be a hang your
I
head
agree.
resume win to
better
get
than
you in.
Mercer.
It's better
I
than
agree
Mercer,
with
but it's not going to get you in the tournament. If they had played St. Joe's instead of Mercer, they'd still probably are the
Yeah, I
first.
mean,
they're
dude,
still
I think-
in right now.
St. Joe's RPI the past couple of years has been real good.
I just don't. That's not a hang your hat win. That's the same as playing UMass, which they played, which did nothing for them this year. What's the difference between UMass and St. Joe's? It's the same team.
Yeah,
It is.
I disagree with that. I mean, St.
How
Joe's
is it not the same team? It's the same team. They're equal. That's like playing UNC or Notre Dame. They're the same team. What's the difference? What's the difference between St. Joe's and UMass this year?
The thing is,
UMass
more
is
same
24
team.
RPI. St. Joe's is 23. St. Joe's for like a majority
They're
of the year.
same
is top
team.
15
The same
RPI.
team. The same team.
I
Yeah,
think
play
you're
them
just
twice.
using St.
The
Joe's a
argument
little bit
is
too
that-
much.
the argument isn't play St. Joe's instead of UMass. Play UMass and St. Joe's and
Yeah,
Richmond
no,
and
that's
whoever
that's
else
fair.
you can get. If you can't get the Syracuses and Cornells or whoever, then you should get the next best tier, not like the low.
No, I
level
agree,
teams that
but
aren't
if you're telling me that, if they replaced Mercer this year with St. Joe's, should they be in? Still no.
No.
Like that's not a carry me into the tournament
even
win.
the difference between Harvard's win against Michigan was 18 RPI. Army's win against Rutgers
The
was
strength of
22.
schedule is still so far behind. Like St. Joe's is not going to cut it. That's not going to be the difference between you getting in or out playing St. Joe's. No chance.
Dude, I think you're being a little bit disrespectful. The A10 was way better than the Patriot League this year.
A10's Patriot League's better than them. Big East is better than them. So what are they like?
Big East is not better than them.
Big East is a better lacrosse conference than the Atlantic 10. Yes, it is. That is crazy.
Hoagie, there's not a world where the Big East was better than the A10 this year.
Overall,
not even on the Big East's best day could they touch the A10 this
I
year.
think the Big East is a better conference than the Atlantic 10 overall. I do. They have better players, more talent. They do. UMass almost lost to UMass Lowell. Who does the Atlantic 10 have besides Richmond and St. Joe's?
Richmond, St. Joe's, UMass, High Point.
Okay, so best on best. You think their best is Richmond, Georgetown. I get Richmond beat Georgetown, but okay, fine. You want to call it spade? There you go, 1-0 there. UMass. I take. You were big on Providence all year. You think who would win? You like Providence or St. Joe's better? Villanova or St. Joe's better?
St. Joe's beat Providence.
What about Denver? Even though they didn't make the tournament, Marquette. You think they're better than High Point?
Yeah, I think High Point would beat Marquette. I mean, we don't need to do this during the Selection Sunday reaction show.
I just
but
think
like,
the Big East,
I mean,
overall is a
we
better
played
conference.
Providence, and we just went Richmond over Georgetown. I mean, like We could just.
End of
I'm
the
not,
day.
saying, I'm not
End of
saying
the
the past 10 years the A10 is better than the Big East.
Dude,
The Big
End of the
East-
day, Army can schedule St. Joe's, and they're still not going to be in the tournament. They're still not going to be in the tournament.
Just mark the words. I was wrong. I was wrong this year. Just say I was
I'm not
wrong.
wrong. I'm not wrong. If you think St. Joe's is going to get Army in the tournament, have fun. Schedule them next year. It's going to do nothing for your schedule. Absolutely nothing.
All right, well, let's go to Syracuse, Harvard, and we were chatting about that 15 minutes ago, but let's circle back to it. Is this potentially the best game of the first round?
No.
Like, this could be the closest one.
No. I think Syracuse
Why
wins
do you
this
say-
game by
why
like
do you say
4 or
no
5.
like that?
I think Syracuse
Yeah,
wins this
I-
game by like 4 or 5.
I don't think there's any way Syracuse
There's no
loses
way.
to Harvard.
There's no
twice.
chance they lose twice. No chance.
That's how I feel about Notre Dame, Ohio State. So and this game too. I do not think that Syracuse loses again to Harvard.
But I think the Ohio State Notre Dame game, even if Notre Dame wins, is a closer game than this game. I think Syracuse is comfortable throughout. I don't think they're
Vegas
sweating
seems
at any point.
to, Vegas seems to think so as well. So
What is it?
no, it's 3. I saw last time I checked in.
Wow.
Harvard's
Wow.
Harvard's excellent, but again, if you watch that game in the beginning of the year, Harvard, I think won. Remember what Kev? What was it? They won 2 faceoffs.
Yeah, they don't need to win faceoffs.
Yeah,
and
they
somehow
won.
they're
Harvard
in
won
every
2
game.
faceoffs the
It
whole
was
game.
crazy.
And their offense was that might have been their best offensive output game, like the efficiency wise. I think McCool was one of McCool's worst games. Now he's ACC goalie of the year. I mean,
Yeah.
McCool, if you want to talk about him against Notre Dame, he's a brick wall. So I mean, I think that McCool kind of shows up this weekend. So yeah, I'm taking
heard-
Cuse in this one.
I heard a very interesting. I was watching the game on Flow Sports, believe it or not, once, and Marcus Holman does a lot of games on there, and he said something interesting where he was like, every game you want your face-off percentage and your goaltending to equal 100, like however you get there, one way or another. And that was a game where, as you mentioned, their face-offs were great. I don't know what McCool was, but he had a really bad game. So if McCool can just get to 50%, I feel like in that game, they win. They find a way to win. And he's playing great. He was just MVP of the ACC tournament. So I think, and he knows he played a bad game in that game. And I think he's going to right the ship and he's going to, want to play well in that one. I think Syracuse gets it done easily.
Harvard's goalie is really
Okay.
good too. He was unbelievable
Very
against Princeton in the
yeah.
semis. Unbelievable.
Well, we'll find out. I think one of the coolest aspects that we're going to have to
Mitch
face
is
here in a
some
sec.
Italians on the team, and he'll take them.
That is true. Producer Corey has dug up some files. It kind of reminds me of like when they would show a tweet from a guy 10 years ago and try to flame him. This is what we're about to run into. Producer Corey has dug up some of our heinous takes throughout the season, and he's going to tell us live, and we're going to react. So just wish us luck. And I don't even remember any of these takes. We haven't seen them or heard them live. So, Corey, let's rip it.
All right, here's number 1. This was back on February 12th.
Ooh, this is probably episode 2, 1, maybe.
Episode 1.
Episode 1.
This was from 𝐓𝐇𝐄. Watch out for Johns Hopkins.
I love what Peter Milliman's really done with that team. Coach K on defense.
Yep.
That team's tough. They're physical. They're smart. They play a certain brand of ball.
Yep.
I don't know if they call it Hopkins ball or whatever, but they don't have the flashy number 1 recruit. But everyone does their job. They face off well. They're stout in goal. Not to Luke Stout, but they're good in goal.
Yeah.
So they've been impressive to me. I mean, I think that was fair at the time of.
You're such a squid. You know that? You're such a squid.
Mitch,
Can you back up on your take saying I was wrong? I was wrong.
And I guarantee you, if we extend that clip out, that each one of you is probably agreeing with me saying the same thing. At the time of that recording, they had
Mitch
3
didn't admit that Hopkins was bad till like last week.
Yeah, they had 3 top 20 wins up to that point. That was the first week of the season. They had beaten Georgetown. They had beaten, I don't know who they played week 1. I don't remember the full schedule, but I did like what Milliman had done with the roster.
I think.
It was Denver. We didn't know how
they had a good
Denver
start.
was.
I remember saying like they were looking better than they did at the start of last season when they made it to the quarterfinals. So I was thinking, okay, maybe they could. But as the season went on, I was out on Hopkins, I think, before most of you. Maybe
Kev was probably the earliest.
You were. The injuries hurt him too. Injuries hurt him.
We were still talking about, are they a championship weekend? Can they win a tournament? Can they win the tournament? I was like, dude, can they win the national tournament or the Big Ten tournament? And then I remember after they lost to Rutgers, I was like, We need to talk about, will they even win a game in the Big Ten?
That was when I
they
turned
didn't.
on Hopkins when they lost to Rutgers.
I will say none of us knew that. I don't think
Yes.
any one of us would have been like, they will not win a single game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mitch
also,
would have brought the mannequin in if we said that.
Yeah.
talking about
clinically.
Hopkins, you could say, oh, look how bad they were. Like, oh, you didn't know ball, Hoagie, for saying that. Like, you couldn't have predicted the injury to Russell Melendez or the goalie situation at all. So, sometimes you just get dealt a bad hand. But I will say, if you're saying you like the roster, backups matter.
Love it, Dr. Kev. Let's go next one.
Mitch on February 12th.
I think Utah's a real threat. I think Utah's a real threat.
Okay.
Yeah, to Ohio State.
After they beat Ohio State.
Mitch was watching selection show, just being like, "There's no way they can get in, right?"
Yeah.
Well, I think it honestly that was bad. Hey, I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna point the thumb. Something Hoagie
After they
can't
beat
do.
Ohio State, Mitch was like, "Can they get net large if they don't win the ASUN?"
It's really heinous that I
Can they
said
get
that.
with 7
I
losses?
was a big fan of this segment, and I didn't think I was wrong at all this whole season. But it just comes to show, as Kev said, everyone's dealt a bad hand. Next one.
Yeah, next one.
We got Dukes.
No, let's just end it right here. I think I'm getting bad connection. See you guys.
Dukes has won every episode.
Yeah, but
I'm reeling it back.
Yeah, you gotta
Keep
reel it
Nick
back.
Myers forever. He's the answer. Keep Nick Myers.
Hey, but all the shame.
He'll never win the Big Ten. He'll never win the Big Ten. He'll never win the Big Ten.
Is that a direct quote?
Hey, he didn't win one; he won two. Back double. He got both. He took both.
I'll do the Hoagie. Well, at the time, I was correct.
At the
What do you have
time,
to say for yourself?
That was fair because
Dude, I was wrong. I'm just glad that the boys get a little motivation. Hey, Myers, you're welcome for that extendo. Got a little nice extension, nice little payday. Hey, I didn't see any thank yous in the DMs.
dudes, me and Mitch can
Extendo.
shoot. Make sure we get you on the Jostens ring list. We'll give you the
Yeah,
reward
yeah.
for pushing the boys. We'll throw you on the list. Send
Yeah,
you a
throw
ring.
it in the weight room. Throw it in the weight room. They're gonna need it after they lose to Notre Dame. They need some more extra motivation in the offseason. But again, there's only one ring that matters, so let's see if you can get that.
All right, we'll see. Corey, what do you got?
Couple weeks later, Hoagie.
To me, it's the same story every year. Syracuse is the Miami Hurricanes football of college lacrosse. They get overhyped every year in the media. They're always top 5. They always have super high expectations. And then once they're out of their little bubble in the Carrier Dome where it's not 70 and sunny and the refs give them a call here and there, blah, blah, blah. Just like Daniel Kelly said, it's not 70 and sunny here in College Park. They lose that game. They come back. They lose again. Same story. Same year with this Syracuse team. The Gary Gate memes are already starting. And Syracuse's season is on life support before we even hit March at this point. I think that point was completely valid up until this past week.
Okay.
Get the mannequin. Get the mannequin.
Damn way.
On the bubble.
Get the
There's
mannequin.
no way.
Were they not on the bubble before Friday? Were they not on the bubble? Were they not on the bubble? Yes or no?
There was, but then if you want to do that, then like if it was Army and Cuse on the bubble, Cuse would have gotten in too.
Yeah, but even I say same Syracuse, different year. If they don't make championship weekend, it is the same Syracuse, different year.
It's the life
The
support
same Cuse.
part, Hoagie.
They just won. They just won the
February
ACC
26th,
tournament.
life support.
Their season was on life support at that point. They had 2 losses before we hit the end of March. They were on life support. They needed to win the rest of the year. They did it. They were on the bubble.
I just wanna-
They don't make the
Hoagie
final.
won't say it. I will for him. Syracuse Gate, you're welcome for the motivation.
Look,
You're
if they don't make the Final Four, it's the same Syracuse, just another year.
No, it's not. They won the ACC. How can you say that?
They won the
What's
ACC
what's
tournament.
different?
Yeah.
What's different? Nice. They won 2
Won
games
the
in 3
ACC.
days.
That's something.
That's pretty
Is this
big.
the same Buckeye team?
Is this the same what?
Is this the same Ohio State team?
Mitch,
Ohio State rolled all season long. Syracuse just showed up and played well for 3 days.
Yeah, but I
They
think they're better
what?
than where they have been.
Mitchell's right.
Fair.
Mitch, I would not have said that if I were you, because now it's like because if Ohio
Okay,
State loses round 1, you can just be like it's every other year.
Okay.
Yeah, but
that's
I
fine.
still think
But no one
it's a
said
different
that.
year.
I know.
They went
I
to
agree with
the
you.
finals last year. They went to the quarterfinals last year. So if they don't make the championship, it's the same year. It's different year. Same story. They went to the quarters and lost last year. If they lose to Princeton in the quarters, same Syracuse, different year. Make the Final Four. You're blue blood.
It's
Towson's made
crazy that Princeton doesn't get that narrative. Like, same
Towson's-
Princeton, different year.
Towson's made a Final Four more recently than Syracuse has. Ohio State, that people want to chirp, has made a Final Four more recently than Syracuse has. Penn State more recently than Syracuse has. So until they make a championship weekend, it's the same Syracuse, different year. I don't want to hear it. It's a fact. Make the Final Four. You haven't been there since 2013.
Someone might see Hoagie in Boston and Gillette and punch him in the face.
Make
I'll be
the
there
Final Four.
Corey,
Make
next
the
one.
Final Four. Until you want it to be a different year, make the Final Four.
We'll end on a correct take.
Can we please send that to GM
Hey,
Spalina?
does Kev anything bad? This guy's been lurking in the shadows.
Yeah, no, this is like he's it's the media. He's controlling it. It's like
Yeah.
The one
I did
correct,
not do it.
the correct take goes to Kev.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, what is it?
Everyone from the ACC is getting in.
That's right.
That's 5 spots right there. So
Is everyone in the ACC getting in? I think
this
it's
whole
going to
thing?
be Virginia.
Could it be Virginia?
Donna's
That's
gonna
what I
make
was
a
going to say,
decision.
Kev.
And you know,
Yeah, Kev. I remember you
Wait,
saying that to
let's
me. Because I made a point. I
if
made a
we're
point.
I said they were going below 500, Corey.
We were talking.
Film.
I remember that
I
exact.
called Syracuse to win the ACC tournament.
I remember
you
that
did. Yeah, you
exact.
did.
Yeah.
I remember that exact
nice.
clip, Kev. This was after Ohio State lost to Utah, and I thought that the Big Ten potentially could be a 2-bid league. They ended up being a 3-bid league, but I thought maybe it would just be Penn State and Maryland, and we were counting them out. And I go, all right, so we got 5 from the ACC, and you stop me, Kevin. You go, I think there's only going to be 4, and I go, who? Virginia? You go, I think it's going to be Virginia. So I remember that clip.
To
The
be honest,
Twins.
though, I think we were all on the Twins. We were all on the on the same page with that one, though. I think.
Yeah.
That we didn't know if they were going to miss the tournament, but we kind of all saw they were the odd one out in the ACC. So,
I said every.
that's
and
true.
also, I have said multiple times on this podcast that Penn State is a team of destiny. So my bad take might not have come to fruition entirely yet.
Yet. You guys have to
Sticking with
keep
that
watching
take.
to find out. We're going to end the college segment before we go into the PLL draft with our brackets. We've all filled out brackets, and I want you guys to know the loser of this challenge has to do the top comment. So pause the video right now, go down and comment a punishment because the loser will have to do the most liked one. Let's dive right in. Dukes, do you want to give us an overview of your bracket right now?
Yeah. Gents.
And pop up a picture for the fans because I want to see it. And
You want me to pop it up right now?
yeah, it's already popped up. Let's see it.
Just run us through your whole bracket. First game to the champion.
All right,
No,
fine. I'll go.
They're going to pop it on the screen. You're good.
Yeah, it's already up. Let's go, Richard.
Is it up? Wait, is it up?
It'll be on the screen
go!
when the people watching. Yeah.
All right, Corey, add it right now. I got Cornell beating Siena. UNC beating the Richie Richmonds. Penn State beating the Gates. Notre Dame over Ohio State. Fighting. Princeton over Towson. Cuse over Harvard. Duke over Georgetown. Bobby Moe over Air Force. Maryland over Bobby Moe. Duke over Maryland to get to the Final Four. Cuse, welcome back to the show, baby. You're in the Final Four and you're officially back.
This guy's losing.
Notre Dame.
So bad.
Notre
Stop
Dame
pointing
beating
this out.
Final
Stop
Four,
pointing this
beating
out.
Penn
This is a
State.
fake bracket.
And
This is a fake bracket.
All ACC Final Four. UNC Tar Heels in the Final Four. And the national championship game. The national championship game is Notre Dame versus Duke. Notre Dame 3P, baby.
The bracket's already over. Guys, go comment below
Go
what
comment
Duke
the
should
most
do
heinous
because
thing
Duke
ever,
is going to
because
lose. So
Dukes is gonna
comment
do it.
below the most heinous thing Duke should have to do. Comment below because Duke's is going to. That bracket was.
No, it could be great.
insane.
We're about to be in studio. I just want to see you massively eat the hottest wings in New York City.
Wait, yeah, I like that. 10 of the hottest wings you can do. That could work. Who do you have in the championship versus Notre Dame? Duke.
Yeah,
So you
I
have
think
Duke,
has a
Duke
nice-
Notre Dame, and Notre Dame wins.
I think Duke has a nice path.
So your Final Four
Okay.
is UNC, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Duke.
It's all ACC. After Hoagie said it was a down year in the ACC, I was like, you know what? We're going all ACC.
Yeah, and he's still not pointing the thumb, Dukes. It's sickening. Kev, why don't
No,
you go?
you know what?
The elder, Kev. Let's go.
Yeah, respect your elders. My turn. All right. I'm not skipping the play-in games because they're important. I'm picking
Yeah, I was going
Albany.
to say. It's a little heinous.
No, he did. He
Albany
did Duke.
over Siena.
Okay.
Old memory.
And then I'm going Air Force over Robert Morris for my playing games, opening round games. And then I'm going to go Cornell over Albany, Richmond over North Carolina. They're doing it. The Spiders are doing it. Penn State over Colgate. Ohio State takes care of Notre Dame. Princeton over Towson, a blowout. Syracuse over Harvard. Duke over Georgetown. Maryland over Air Force. Moving on to the semifinals now. I've got this is the quarterfinal matchups, semifinal winners. Cornell over Richmond, Penn State over Ohio State, team of destiny, Penn State. Syracuse over Princeton. That one's going to be a battle, maybe overtime.
Yeah.
Maryland over Duke, which we saw in the quarterfinals last year. Same story, same teams, different year. I think that's what we've been saying.
Yep.
Cornell beats Penn State to go to the final in a rematch of that game. They avenged their only loss of the season. Another rematch from earlier in the year that's avenged. Syracuse, Maryland. Syracuse wins. We got the Cornell-Syracuse rivalry coming back to the national championship.
Wow.
This time, Cornell wins it. What do you think about that?
That'd be sick.
Wow.
That'd be
Poetic?
sick.
When did that happen? 09, was it?
09.
09.
One of the greatest finishes of all time.
Rob Pinnell's
Well,
still
that's what's
thinking
going to
about
happen.
that game.
That's what's going to happen in my championship, actually, Kev, if we're going to do that. Mine is going to be the rematch of 09. Overtime, Will Lynch, face-off win, down the pipe, right past Jameson. 6-5
And
winner.
he's gonna look at
It
Pete
is a
Clark on the
storybook ending.
sideline interview and be like, "This is for Scotty Rogers." All right, Hope, you go.
All right, so top of the bracket, Cornell. They're going to play Siena. Siena's going to beat Albany. I like Cornell beating Siena, so Cornell moves on. UNC, not overthinking it. North Carolina is going to beat Richmond. Brady Wambach and Gianfrancaro are going to be too much to overcome. So I got UNC to the next round. Penn State beating Colgate. Ohio State beats Notre Dame. They just play their game, and they're going to win that game. So I'm taking Ohio State. Then we got, what is it? Princeton Towson. Princeton wins that game. Syracuse Harvard. Syracuse moves on. And then at the bottom, Duke beats Georgetown. And then Maryland beats Air Force in that game. Second round, Cornell making it to championship weekend. CJ Kirst going to look to win the championship since he was there as a freshman, kind of bookend it, make it right. And then Ohio State is going to take down Penn State to make it to championship weekend. So Ohio State and Cornell in the Final Four. Bottom part of the bracket, Princeton playing Syracuse. Matt Madeline and Princeton are going to be back in the Final Four. And then at the bottom, it's death, taxes, Maryland into the Final Four. They're beating Duke.
Yep.
So Final Four, Ohio State, Cornell, Princeton, and Maryland. So no ACC teams in my championship weekend there. Cornell beats Ohio State. Cornell goes to the championship game. The offense is just on another level. It's going to be really tough to stop. So Cornell into the championship game. Princeton beats Maryland. So Princeton's on to the championship game. And Cornell beats Princeton for a third time this season. Cornell hosts a trophy, and they will be holding it on Memorial Day.
Wow.
Hate that pick. Hate that pick in the semis.
Yeah, I don't like that one single bit. Dude, do you have anything to say to Hoagie real quick?
I let my talking. I do my talking on the field, Mitch.
I like that. Okay. I'm going to go Albany over Siena, and then I'm going
Attaboy.
Robert Morris over Air Force. And then starting at the top, Cornell over Albany, UNC over Richmond, Penn State over Colgate, Ohio State, over Notre Dame, Princeton over Towson, Cuse over Harvard, Duke over Georgetown, Maryland over Robert Morris. Then, start back up at the top. Cornell over UNC, Ohio State over Penn State, Syracuse over Princeton, Maryland over Duke. Death taxes, Maryland Final Four. And then we're going Cornell versus Ohio State. The Ohio State is going to the national championship. Cuse versus Maryland. Maryland's going to the national championship. It's going to be a rematch 2017. But Ohio State's going to host the trophy.
Wow.
For my Buckeyes.
Media member badge revoked.
Let's
Media
go.
member badge
Revoked.
You know what's gonna happen?
revoked.
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 You know what's going to happen?
I'll tell you what, if that comes to if Ohio State wins the national championship, that has to be one of the toughest roads of all time. Playing Notre Dame, Penn
Like the
State,
matchups,
Cornell,
though.
and then Maryland to win a national championship. So impressive.
But it's on the wall. You know why? You know why? Notre Dame. We did it. We're going to do it again. I like the Penn State matchup we talked about earlier. Notre
I love
Dame,
the
Penn State.
matchup. Yeah.
And then Cornell. Look, I think God's up there. He's talking to us. When Hoagie and I played Cornell in the playoffs,
We did.
we had a rain delay. Before that, we're going to win the game.
We were.
God's bringing us something.
Mitchell, guys,
And
give
it's
you
over.
It was like after the second quarter.
we were talking about Penn State getting the Colgate draw and Ohio State getting the Notre Dame draw. I do think that Penn State ended up getting a little bit I think those were the two worst matchups, arguably in the bracket for Penn State.
Yeah.
The winners of those two, the winner of Notre Dame, Ohio State. So I do like that call. And also, you're right about Cornell. This would be the best defense they've gone against all year. and we were talking about
Look, you guys say I'm a ball knower. I'm a ball knower.
I
Cullen
think
Brown
Cornell and Ohio
amazing.
State are like two teams of destiny to me, where it just like
God.
seems like the
I can't
stars
wait
are
till
aligned.
every alumni
Bucks are gonna have to
shits
play in
on
the
James
semi, not the
Hogan
championship.
after Ohio State goes to the national championship. I can't wait. I'm sleeping on it.
Can
and
I-
I'm gonna be flexing it all over the place. Every Instagram story, James Hogan called this. James Hogan did this. Look, he might not even be a real alumni.
I might
Sickening.
go a Mitchell
Where are
Pehlke
you,
jersey
Mitch? Are you-
if they beat Notre Dame.
Mitch, see, you
Sickening.
were on the media member train, and then chirping Duke saying that we're media members, and then now you're flipping sides here.
No, I'm not flipping sides. Did I think Notre Dame was going to beat them earlier this year? Absolutely. Do I think Ohio State can win it all now? Absolutely.
Obviously,
guy's
they can win it
unbelievable.
all. Obviously, they can win it all. I wouldn't be shocked if they
That's
won
what I
it all.
think.
Okay, good. All right,
That's what
yeah.
I think.
I love.
I
the
see
pick.
one
Mitch,
I
love
see
the
one
pick.
podcaster who's serious about being a media member, and another one who wears a certain suit jacket when he calls the games.
Kev, it's funny.
Sickening.
I see one person who's been
Sickening.
serious about being a media member, and I see the other one who picked Cornell to win the national championship.
Yeah, I agree with Dukes. I agree with
At
Dukes.
least one person's taking it serious.
And I think all through that, at the end of the day, again, I can't wait because I'm going to call Nick Myers individually and be like, hey, after the Notre Dame game, I've been riding with you guys. Hoagie hasn't. Can I get a national championship ring? I'm going to have to make that call. We'll see. At the end of the day, you guys get to pick.
I'm
Top
still
comment.
riding with Ohio State. You're
No,
you're missing.
No.
See, now you're
Top
missing the
comment.
point again. All
Top
right,
comment.
if you
Top
want to drag
comment
it on,
gets
you
the
can
boot.
drag it on.
Top
I'm riding with
comment.
Ohio State.
Hoagie's
That's
gonna have to
ridiculous.
do the top comment. If you want to see James Hogan eat the
All right.
hottest 10 wings in the world, it
Now
might
Mitch
happen.
is just
That's
Mitch is
the
a
top
troll.
comment.
Mitch is becoming a
At the end of
troll
the day,
now.
We have to
becoming a
close out the
troll.
college segment before the
Mitch
PLL
is
segment.
trolling.
On a sad note, R.I.P. Limestone. I had to say it. It's just sad. We've gotten to this place. We saw Matt Nessler, Cabrini do it. Now we're here with Limestone. R.I.P. to the fellas out there. But they're in the tournament. Dukes, you want to talk to us about
Dude,
it?
they're the 2 seed in the tournament. Not only are they could they ride out to the sunset, they could do something that Cabrini couldn't. That's go out with a national championship, which that would be one of the coolest ending in sports. And I'll say this: if Limestone is there, I'll be at that game no matter what.
Yeah, that'll be insane.
I will be there. I'll be ripping the jersey. Shout out Torby, played lacrosse with him growing up. Long Island Express, Manhasset kid. I know that him and his boys are dying right now. National champion 2017. That would be by far the coolest way to go out. Not only for just college, like winning a national championship in college, your senior year storybook, but you win and you go out champions forever. So cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting. No,
Yeah.
it's sad. You wish it didn't happen, but at the end of the
It
day,
would
money
be a
talks.
storybook ending for the Limestone seniors.
It would be
Sean
sick.
Saints.
Paul
And,
right there.
it's kind of cool because they could go out winning it and something Cabrini never did.
Yeah. Oh, they did it until
Yeah.
the 19, but one last ride. Like you find out 2 weeks ago that or probably like a month ago, they got the chirping that like their school could shut down, entering the transfer portal, all these distractions to go out
Probably
a national
completely
champ.
stopped going to class, and now you're just
Oh my
practicing.
god! I know. Do you know how fucked up I get? Like,
Yeah.
do you know how like you're not losing, like you're not winning a national championship. Like you're going back and you're like, we got nothing. Like
Yeah, literally.
the landlord's not getting any more money. That deposit's down the drain. That house is getting trashed. Like the Limestone boys wouldn't like. That's a documentary that someone's got to do. Is to go
Oh, yeah.
party with those boys for like the last 2 weeks.
That trophy might break. It might not
Oh
make it
my
to the
God.
coach's office.
All five. All five. They're going to
Jesus.
go down the hallways with baseball bats.
They don't care. It's the last go.
I hope they win it.
But-
Let's go.
Well, that puts a pause on this episode. Now let's get into the PLL draft. Day 2, we're back. Obviously, you see Hoagie, Dukes, but no Kev. Kev, where you at?
What's up, boys? Sorry I couldn't make it to the second half of the show. I'm at ESPN Studios for the PLL Draft, but I got a question for you. What'd you think about the draft? I want to know your all-star, your sleeper, and your snub. Let me know what you think.
All-star sleeper snub.
Wow.
The draft just ended. We're talking Tuesday night at 9:20 right now. Dukes, I'll let you take it off. Give us your all-star of this draft, who you think is going to be an all-star. Give us your sleeper, a guy that got drafted late that's going to be, essentially the TJ Malone Award. And then also the guy that got snubbed. Who didn't get drafted that you think got snubbed?
Kev's got a great voice, by the way. I can't
Yeah, he
shout
does.
from that. Dude, that cadence was on time right there.
Had to be at
Baby.
ESPN.
Yeah, at ESPN. That was a tryout for himself, anyways. But we're talking all-star this year, Mitchie?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Year one. Dude, you know who I like in this one? I'm looking for someone that doesn't need to be dominant with the ball in the stick. I'm also not going to be the homer and pick the number 1 pick in CJ Kirst. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look outside the box right here. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to look for the next Xander Dixon in this draft.
Oh,
and that's
okay.
Jake Taylor. Someone that I think is
Okay.
going to complement really well off of CJ Kirst. I think that when you look at the Water Dogs and Michael Sowers, and when you look at what the Water Dogs are doing, they're forming a formidable attack line or even out of the box, comparable, in my opinion, to what we saw from the Atlas last year. I think Michael Sowers is still a top 2, top 3 player in the league. Jeff Teat definitely rose up to be the number 1 dominant player, Schreiber, and I think Sowers is still firmly much in that top 2 conversation. CJ Kirst, goals record, and then Jake Taylor, someone that doesn't really need the ball in his stick and can put it in the back of the net. So I think that's a sleeper to make the All-Star team.
Interesting. Okay, so who's your sleeper now?
My sleeper late round pick that I'm absolutely in love with. I think this guy could be an All-Star if he gets off the gridiron. I'm talking about Hugh Kelleher from Strong.
I like that. I like
I
that.
love
I like
pick.
that a
That's
lot.
such a good
I like
pick.
that.
Guy's a
such good
bulldog.
pick.
Some concerns. We think we talked about it on the show maybe in earlier episodes. Is he in the portal to play football next year? Do we really know what that looks like?
Look, we were chit-chatting right before the show. I don't know if I'm hearing things, and it won't be the first time I heard some things that weren't right, but did it not sound like during that draft show that Pressler said, we thought, like,
Pressler's got a little inside scoop.
He's a former football player. Gavin Adler's been in my ear, but he's opted to play in the PLL. So I think he might have been out of the portal. I don't know if that was like a maneuver by Hugh Kelleher to be like, I want to dip to the Atlas. I want to play with my Cornell boy and Gavin Adler. But yeah, I love Hugh Kelleher. And if you want me to shout out one more person, didn't have the year that we thought he was. Griffin Schutz, man, the pick after Kelleher. I also think he gives me Dox Aitken vibes. Dox Aitken, obviously, he went to the gridiron actually for a little bit. Played for Villanova during the spring. Came won a national championship with UVA. I like Schutzy to have a nice pro career, honestly. And I think he'll find himself as a better pro than college player.
I like that Hugh pick. I think when I was there in the fall doing the doc on
Griffin
Cornell,
Schutz just broke his laptop, by the way.
He was elite. I mean, we played against him. He is a body trucking down the field.
Oh, 100%.
Like the perfect fit, the perfect frame, the perfect style for the PLL.
Yeah, we played Cornell every single year, Mitch, that we were at Ohio State. And I swear, I don't even know what grade Hugh Kelleher is, if he's like a true senior, or if he's technically like been there for 5 years. But
yeah,
I mean, he was like that one kid that I feel like every single year when we played Cornell, like you noticed him immediately the second he stepped on the
100%.
field. Like it was like, who is that guy? Like big bully Dodger. I feel like him and Schutz are very similar size wise. Kelleher is just more put together. So no, I like the Schutz pick too, Dukes. I think for him, it's just about finding himself again. Kind of, he's had a little bit of a subpar last 2 years. Obviously, he was a top recruit coming out of high school. He's got all the physical tools. He's kind of just got to put it together. And sometimes we see it in the league all the time. Guys are better pros than college players, and some guys are better college players than pros. Like it is what it is. But I guess we'll see. I could see him having a really good career. But the Kelleher pick, unbelievable.
Yeah, I like that.
Dude, you're gonna get him and you could get him and Aiken on the same midfield line. How are you?
That's a lot
And
of
maybe a
downhill
little Miles
dodging.
Jones?
That's a lot of downhill shoulder dodging right there.
And you don't got Danny Logan to match you up on that. He's got Danny Logan on your sideline.
Do you think if Miles Jones, Dox, and Hugh against us three on defense out of 10 shots, are we stopping them at least one time?
Yeah. Dude, I would take us over pretty much anyone in the PLL. Nestler and Cage, though, we might be a little in trouble a little bit.
Yes, that's true. That's true. All right, who's your snub?
I think there's some bigger names out there for snubs. Someone might point out like a Ryan Cohen, but I'm going to go out with someone else on Michigan who I think had a terrific senior year, and I actually expected to be kind of a sleeper to get into the draft. I'm going Aiden Mulholland. Really productive out of the Michigan midfield. This spring, I thought he really came on strong, had a strong senior campaign. And when Kark really talks about when we had him on, he talked about that the last year of college lacrosse matters a lot for his analysis in it, in the draft. I thought Mulholland really proved to himself that he was a pro and didn't really need the ball on his stick and was very, very effective. Another one that I fully expected to get drafted tonight that didn't, Will Lynch.
Yeah.
Brendan Fowler
That's
vibes in a way. You are back-to-back national champ, shows up in the big moments. Really, the only time I remember him getting clobbered has been against John Mullen against Syracuse. So talk about someone that I thought would come in, just get drafted, take a chance on. But again, we've kind of seen the last couple of years, unless you're going to get those Trevor Baptistes, those Joe Nardellas, those TDs. do you really want to waste a draft pick on a 𝐓𝐄𝐄 or just invite them to camp? But
And also,
I
too,
love-
dude, let me pose this question to you. Does it worry you with just the ever-changing rules of that position? And Hoagie, chime in as a 𝐓𝐿GO yourself.
No, I mean, for me, like looking at it as a face-off guy here, like, I mean, if I'm the Water Dogs, like the only team that really needed a face-off guy, like I know everyone said the Water Dogs, but like let's be real, Coach Tierney, he loves his guys, he loves his Denver boys. He has Alex 𝐓𝐇𝐄. 𝐓𝐇𝐄 is going to be their face-off guy. So there really wasn't another spot in the league. Maybe the Chaos would be the only one you'd point to where there's a quote-unquote opening of the face-off. Every other position's like pretty much locked down. So I really didn't expect any face-off guy to really get drafted tonight, but if it was one, it was going to be Lynch. But we'll pick them up at camp. I think there's guys like Jake Naso, who didn't make a roster last year, who's been phenomenal in the NLL. He's going to get a chance at a camp somewhere this summer. Even like a Justin Wheatfeld from Michigan a year ago, he's been unreal too. He didn't get a shot. So a lot of good 𝐓𝐿GOs out there. As for the rules, I mean, I don't think they're ever going to get rid of the face-off. I mean, I think the experiment that the Water Dogs did of going with no 𝐓𝐿GO, it worked one year, but then last year it was a total disaster, especially at the start. So I think that was one of those things where like they experimented with it, and it's not going to happen again. I think guys like Baptiste, Nardella, TD, etc. They've proven how valuable they really are. So
I agree and I disagree. I mean, a lot of 1-goal losses. There's face-offs down the stretch that like it completely screwed them. But I can't stand the Alex 𝐓𝐇𝐄 like
yeah, that's
narrative.
Just Tierney loves him.
What do you
Denver
think,
guy
Deuce?
recruited
Just
him.
doesn't. I think it depends on the type of 𝐓𝐿GO that you're looking after, and I think Will Lynch kind of fits the bill. I think Will Lynch, after the face-off, what he can do on the offensive end, keeping the ball on his stick, way better than 𝐓𝐶𝐶akis or 𝐓𝐶akis, whatever. You 𝐓𝐿GOs, you probably know each other's names, but like,
Yeah,
I can't stand the nepotism towards 𝐓𝐶akis, and you're right. Whatever, Wheatfeld and Naso, I think also two guys that I think I'd rather have than 𝐓𝐶akis.
yeah. The face-off position
like
too is
that.
different in the league too. You got to think about it. Like
Stay on the field. Those
you're
the
staying-
32
you stay on-
seconds you got.
but also like look at the main face-off guys in the league. Trevor, Nardella, those guys are a lot of meat, grinding it out there. Like 𝐓𝐶akis can meet you
Lot of
pound
meat.
for pound on the ball there. So
Pound for pound.
like it's different than the quick in and out that like a John Mullen has or like a Will Lynch kind of in the college game. Like some of these face-off guys, it's a full-on headbutt. You see Trevor go in there. You got to have a lot of strength to get in there. So that might be one of the reasons for keeping a 𝐓𝐶akis. But I mean, Will Lynch will be on a training camp roster, so not worried about that.
I just
I think
anytime
he got hurt though Friday, so I guess we'll see how he is this weekend against Ohio State. He had that forearm
Yeah.
injury.
whenever your percentage is below 50%, your job should never be safe.
Yep, that's true.
That's true.
James, hit us. What do you got? All-star, sleeper, snub.
Yeah, so for my all-star, I'm going to take Brendan Lavelle from Penn getting drafted to the Archers. Coach Bates, they traded up with the Chaos to the 5th pick to get that. And a lot of people would say, that was kind of early to take a guy like Brendan Lavelle. But, Coach Bates said on the draft, he was like, look, he was our guy. He's the guy I want. And the truth is, whoever your guy is, he's never drafted too high. If you think he's the best player available, you could take him even if no one else does. So to me, Brendan Lavelle, he was unbelievable in his career at Penn. Really the only guy who was able to shut down and contain CJ Kirst to a degree. And out of anyone in college lacrosse over the last couple of years, I think he's going to be a mainstay in that Archers defense with Graham Hossack and all those other guys and Coach Bates. So I love that pick out of him. So he's my sleeper
He's
pick.
your all-star.
My all-star.
Oh, he's your sleeper.
No, he's my all-star. Sorry.
yeah.
He's my
Okay.
all-star. So Lavelle's going to be my all-star in year one. He's going to be so steady.
Yep.
Sleeper pick. I think this guy is going to be unbelievable. I watched him a bunch this year, and every time I watched this team play, he always jumped off the screen. Pace Billings from Michigan is unbelievable. And to me, he's
Legit.
typical.
That's a good sleeper.
He's exactly what you want in a PLL SM. Active, picks up the ball off the carpet, runs with the ball up and down in transition. So good. Every time I watch, I feel like his stick is active. He's all over the field.
Yes.
Pace Billings, to me, is going to be so underrated in this league. Fits perfectly with this team. He's going to I believe he's going to the Outlaws. Yeah, the Outlaws. So he'll be playing for Coach Sudan in Denver. Love that pick. And then my snub. I have a couple guys for snub. First off, Alex Marnier from Ohio State. Bit of a riser this year. Not many people expected him to, be a PLL
Put the ball in the
prospect.
back of the net.
But
Let's
look,
just say that.
He's got one of the hardest shots I've seen, and not just because Trey Leclerc played there, but he's got one of the hardest shots, kind of like a Trey Leclerc-esque shot when he has time room. So, see if the
Bullseye.
Archers pick him up and add him to that firing squad they have there.
Yes.
2 other guys I want to point out. Eric Maliver from Duke had a great career at Maryland and then is having one of the most underrated seasons at Duke this year. Been ultra productive. I feel like he's kind of been forgotten a little bit.
Let me ask you that. Why do you think that is?
Why he's been kind of underrated this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like the whole offense has kind of flowed through McAdory, right? He's their quarterback. He's their main guy through the midfield. And, Duke's kind of been up and down offensively. They've had weeks where they haven't been productive and they've had weeks where they have been. So I just think he's kind of got overshadowed to a degree. And a lot of the big games that Duke's played in, he hasn't particularly had the best game or the craziest showing. So I'm interested to see what he can do in the playoffs here. I think he's going to be one of those guys that you notice during this May run here for Duke, especially if they can make it to championship weekend. Maliver is going to have to be huge. A couple other guys, just looking at the list of undrafted, Jack Stuzen from Yale, LSM, another great player. Jack Frassion, if he can get, up to his game. I know he didn't have the best year this year, but you never know if he can come into form down the line. And then I don't know what the deal is with the military obligations, but I think you got to look at guys like
tough.
Iker, Will Coletti, AJ Pilot, all studs. So,
and it's tough too because obviously we saw Nick turn that whole news pop, and he's obviously going to play this season. And none of us in Dukes, let me know if I'm wrong, but none of us know exactly what the situation is with these cats and how that really goes when they graduate.
Yeah, I know. I have this inside source from my friend. He went to the Army-Navy game. He actually talked to Nick Turn. Nick Turn's fully playing this year.
Really?
Who's your source? Nice guy?
Yeah, this Matt Nessler. He has got this wicked good YouTube page.
Dukes, what about Ryan Bell?
Please go. He's coming to Long Island this summer.
What about Ryan
the
Bell?
Matthew Nessler lacrosse experience.
Dukes, what about Ryan Bell from Providence? You think he's got a shot?
100%. I would say my next two that there's Dukes guys. I'm not saying that these are guys that are going to be
just from Long Island.
Tom Schreiber. Yeah, Bell is a Long Island guy, isn't he?
I think he is.
And I got a Jersey cat that I really like.
Who? Mikey Long?
Michael Long. Yeah, I like
Michael Long.
Long.
Very underrated.
These are guys that I've
personality.
Is he has a good one?
Yeah.
Is that what you look for in a guy?
That's what I do.
And Ty English, too. We know D-Middies are big in this league. Ty English, underrated, too. He's been a beast for UNC.
Are we just going to assume that Russell Melendez is going back to school?
I was just given that he's going to go back. I think he loves the game too much.
Has he popped out any tweets about that situation yet?
Yeah, we're going to have to look into that.
I thought you wanted looking at the last two I was going to do a Dukes' list of biggest snubs, and I was going to put your guy Kelly out there.
Daniel Kelly or Mick Kelly?
Yeah, Danny Kelly. You're a Maltz guy,
Daniel
right?
Kelly from Maryland.
Daniel Kelly. Yeah. He's sleeper too.
He is.
Dude, give him the ball. He'll put the ball in the back of the net. It's just so hard. I mean, we talk about this here and there, but just dude, there's only so many teams. There's so many positions. The league needs to get bigger for us to be able to talk about obviously more names. That's a topic for the future. I'm gonna go though. All-Star. I'm gonna say true to the number one. It could be potentially not right. It could be sickening, but CJ Kirst is gonna be an All-Star. But let me pose you guys this question, and correct me if I'm wrong. Do you think CJ Kirst could have the best rookie year since the inception of the PLL?
I think he could. I mean, look at this. CJ Kirst this year, when he gets into the league, is going to be the first time, maybe since the beginning of his high school career, where he's not getting the best defender on him, and he's going to get an easier matchup with playing off of Sowers like that. Imagine him not getting the number one pole. Look at what he does right now. Getting the what?
He still
I still could see him, yeah.
You think over Sowers?
I think it depends on the type of defender, though.
There's so many number one poles in the league that quicker feet's gonna go on Sowers, and then
that's a fair point.
Could you see a Graham Hossack going on CJ Kirst? If that happened, I wouldn't be like, wow.
Yeah, that's fair.
Shocking.
I love this Water Dogs offense that they're building, though, Dukes. That Jake Taylor pick, like you said, it's just like a perfect fit, the glue piece.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because that just told me that they're going to kind of change up their scheme, which
is
he going to come out of the box? Is McCardle going to come out of the box? You saw Bill Tierney say before the draft that, it makes it easy that McCardle and Sowers both wanted us to draft the same guy, which was CJ Kirst. So just very, very, very interesting stuff in the PLL. I don't know. I still think that Brennan's rookie year is somehow slept on. What do you have? 9 points week 2?
Yeah, he was ultra.
The Outlaws were dead as dead. Once he went to attack, he was pretty gosh darn.
He did lock up.
dominant.
Yeah, I mean, he had the bad week 1 game and then the week 2 game where he had 9, and he like took over that game to beat Utah, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, he's here." And then, I mean, he's just had highlight reel goals all year. That one goal he had at Denver, the one hand down as he was dodging down the alley. Like,
What was the most dominant performance I've seen in any PLL game?
Oh yeah, the 9-goaler.
It had to have been.
Not even just like points production wise.
Oh, PLL,
I've never watched a game where it seemed so helpless for the other team that like you just knew what was going to happen.
The only game that I can remember where I felt that way, where it was just completely helpless, was, I don't know if you guys remember in the MLL days, John Grant Jr. had, I think, 10 or 11 goals against the Lizards. And it was just like week on week, like every time he would just get the ball and he was scoring BTBs. Like, it was insane. Look it up when he was on the Ohio Machine. For anyone back home, great highlights from back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I just read that article by Joey Keegs. Great job by him. He actually was talking about because Matt Cav. We're going to talk about Chris Cav, and I bet you in just a second. Sorry to mix around a little bit, but Matt Cav retired. Another Cav comes into the league, and he was talking about how the Outlaws in Matt Cav's rookie year, Matt Cav slipped a little bit. They were 2-6. They traded away John Grant Jr., one of the best offenses of all time with the Ohio Machine. It was like Kyle Harrison, Marcus Holman, Tom Schreiber, John Grant Jr., and they faced these rookies with the Denver Outlaws, this young team, and they lose in the championship. So,
Dukes, I love your tweet, by the way. What's the deal with Kavanaugh's like investment bank? I can assure you that Chris is not an investment banker. So,
Wait, what was the tweet?
So obviously, I mean, we'll just jump right into it. The Shedeur Sanders of the draft. We thought there's a couple names thrown out there. We thought maybe it could be Hiltz. We thought maybe it could be Ben Ware. It ended up being Chris Cav, which I don't think anybody saw coming.
No, nobody saw coming.
I mean, I know that like the way it shook out, you saw how far he could fall, but there were still some picks in that first round where I was like, I don't know what you are doing. The chaos. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean the chaos to not take him at 9 was completely crazy because first off, I thought they should have taken him at 5, and then they traded with the Archers, and you were like, all right, they gave it away. And then they get to their 9th pick, and he was still available. So I was like, oh my God, they made the trade and are still going to get the same guy they would have took at 5. And then they don't even take him. They take Owen Hiltz from Syracuse. So I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Even having Liberty on, remember what he said? He could go first round, or he could drop potentially 3rd, 4th round, or even that's it. So I don't know. But before we jump into that, I want to give my sleeper and snub real quick. Sleeper for me is a guy by the name of Mick Kelly out of Denver. I like him a lot. Second round. I was out there in Denver, did the doc, Howard Hall, Baltimore guy. I think he could be legit. And I feel like, again, just it's kind of like Denver. It's kind of like the Ivies. They play in outer space a lot of the times. Media members, we don't really know too much about those squads, but I think Mick is a sleeper. Snub for me has to be Ryan Cohen from Michigan. Broadcasting those games, talking to him, seeing what he's done on the field. I just think he could be a potential fix for a lot of these teams, but that's my sleeper. That's my snub. But let's get back into what you're saying about Chris Cav, the Shedeur of the draft, Dukes.
Yeah, one of the most shocking things I think I've seen in PLL history was Chris Cav's drop. And I mean, as you Ohio State boys, I know you probably just listened to us talk about the Notre Dame Ohio State preview. Got a little contentious. We're talking our talk. We're doing the rah stuff. I know you're sitting there. You already replied. That was about the worst thing that an Ohio State fan could watch.
Dude, I texted you back.
A Chris Cavanaugh, who's already pissed off that he lost. He's already pissed off that he lost to Syracuse last week, gets knocked out of the ACC tournament round 1, loses to Ohio State early in the year, and then he falls in the draft. You're number 2 on Clark's big board, and you go at number 11? Guys, like,
dude,
it's not looking good.
Dude,
this is.
Dude,
he's one of the guys that would actually play like seriously pissed off.
Oh my God.
He's gonna be hungry this weekend, dude.
But before that, like, what do you guys think? I wasn't the one thing I was not surprised on, because I think Owen Hiltz's draft pick for me, didn't make sense because of who the Chaos have around him. It's not like Hiltz is like a go-to guy. It's not like he's a Chris Cav. You put the ball in his stick, he can be the main guy, or he can be the number 2 guy. He kind of needed to be like a Coulter McAsee, in my opinion, where you're surrounded by an Asher Knowlton who could be a pass-first guy. You got to be surrounded by a Marcus Holman to free him up. This didn't really make sense to me to go in and be a day 1 starter. But the one guy that got drafted above Chris Cav that I loved, and I said it already, Jake Taylor, that made perfect sense. I did not mind the Water Dogs passing on him. It just, the fit didn't really make sense. but like Aiden Carroll went above him. I was kind of shocked by that. I love Aiden Carroll. I think he's a round one talent, so I didn't really want to say anything publicly. I guess thank God I'm not saying anything publicly. It's just on a podcast. But I don't know. Like, I just think that where the whipsticks are kind of trending, and just go get someone like Chris Cav, go shoot some life into the program.
Yeah, I mean, I think to the
Yeah,
chaos too,
100%.
we have to remember this is a new regime now. Obviously, Andy Towers isn't the coach anymore, so we don't know really what direction the chaos are looking to build, kind of culture-wise, like how they've been built the last couple of years. They've kind of had a slow-paced offense and a legit defense with Blaze and all those guys. So this might be a new regime. This might be a new way they're approaching it. I guess we'll see how they handle it.
Yeah.
What was your
100%.
favorite first round draft pick? Like one that like obviously like stood out to you that you didn't expect, or was there one you guys liked? I know what mine is.
Honestly, I didn't expect, like you said,
I have one that I love.
Aiden Carroll to go 7, 100%. I think the Brennan Lavelle pick is he's gonna be a stud.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think I
even
expected that,
Hilty
but
with kind of where we thought he was going to be.
yeah, Hilty.
I mean, again, having Adam on,
McAfee is gonna be really good in Boston for sure.
Yeah.
I love that pick.
I
What was yours, Dukes?
loved the Matt Trainer pick.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Couldn't have loved the pick more.
Yeah,
Especially
I like
when
him.
when you pair him.
He
when
can be
you,
potential TJ Malone vibes.
Yeah, he
Obviously,
could.
the Penn State connection, but
well, yeah, but round one pick.
yeah, I
That would be
guess
like-
he was 3. Yeah. Can't say that.
Oh,
Matt Trainer,
Did
love you,
anyone
brother.
expect? I think the shocker of the draft. Did anyone expect CJ Kirst 1 to the Water Dogs? That's like my favorite thing, Mitch. When you say something like that, and then we're all like,
Oh,
no.
dude,
What
Mitch
What did I
was
say? What did I
Mitch
say
was so
in
Mitch,
person?
Mitch was
What
probably
did
so
you say
pissed
one
with
time?
Brian.
Dukes, what did he say that one
Tom
time when we're
Schreiber,
all?
like,
He
do
was
you
like,
think the
"How
Russians are gonna
surprising
win?"
is this?" And we're all like,
There's sometimes where it was last summer, right? When he was like the wheels were kind of turning, and he's like, it's fair to say that like Tom Schreiber's the best midfielder in the world, right? Like, and we're like, I don't know about that one.
Well, V, for you, who won the
Yeah.
draft? Who lost the draft? And Dukes, I want you to rebuttal off his thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so me, clear winner, the California Redwoods, clear win, A+ draft from Coach Kelly and GM Joe Spallina. You knew he was going to take McAdory at 2. That was a lock before we even started. So love that pickup. Obviously, dynamic midfielder. Spallina's known him forever. Got the ties. That was going to happen.
Yep.
Then taking Sam English at 3 at 𝐓𝐄, another great fit. Adding 2 midfielders, adding to this offense, a team that really lacked offense. So right off the bat, you get 2-3, bang. You'd be happy with just those 2. A lot of people thought they were going to get Chris at 3 or trade that pick. Didn't end up happening. They take Sam English. And then to get the pick at 10, your first pick around 2, and still get Chris Kavanaugh out of this whole thing. So you got McAdory, Sam English, and Chris Cav in the first 10 picks. Like, are you kidding me? That is a unbelievable haul for right off the bat. And then I'm looking like even later in the draft, like some of the guys that they added towards like the background, like Carter Rice, a short stick D medium from 𝐓𝐄, underrated. And then even Griffin Schutz, like we talked before, if they can unlock him, that could be another potential star. So I love the draft from the Redwoods. I thought they killed it. Getting those, what I would say, probably 2 of the top 3 players in the draft with McAdory and Chris Cav, if you want to say that. And then my clear loser is the chaos. I don't know what they were doing. They traded back when they should have taken Chris Cav at 5. They didn't take him at 5. Traded back, then could have taken him again at 8. Still passed on him. And then like some of the other picks later in the draft, like the Levi Verge pick, like that's fair. I like that pick. But then like going with Jack McDonald out of Maryland over, some of the other LSM options out there, like a Pace Billings, like a Ben Ware, like a Michael Grace. So that kind of had me questioning things. And that was all they had on draft picks. So chaos, bad draft, honorable mention, other good drafts, Water Dogs and Archers to me. Archers had a sneaky good draft. Lavelle, fantastic. Getting Sam King late in the draft was another amazing pick for the Archers. Dunham from Richmond. Not many people know him. He's going to be a lockdown defender for them. So underrated for those guys was underrated for me, Archers and Water Dogs on like the honorable mention ride. Clear winner, Redwoods, and then clear loser, Chaos. Dukes, what's your thoughts?
I don't disagree with really what you said, but I think the Water Dogs probably had the best draft.
I mean, they got the best player, so yeah.
No, right, but like you kind of fit every need from what I understand. You got Kirsty, which is I think pairing him up with Sowers could be the best 1-2 duo for the next decade if they stayed together. You get Jake Taylor, who fits that offensive creativity. You got Dylan Hess, who I think is one of the best short stick D middies in last year's draft, and I thought he was going to be a stud last year as a rookie. He could be the steal of the draft. Obviously, the biggest worry is coming from MCLA, even though MCLA lives matter. But Ben Ware
right now too.
Yeah, Ben Ware, man. Like, I truly think that for how much people talked about Jake Pacino last year and what he could do in the middle of the field and on the offensive side of the ball, not enough people are talking about Ben Ware. So I like what the Water Dogs did a lot. And then the Outlaws, they are pretty much set offensively. And they just said, let's take a stab at the defensive side of the ball and really, really fix it. And now they're not just in a position where Owen McElroy has a 2. Owen McElroy has a competition. I think Owen McElroy is a starter in this league, and Owen McElroy has got to fight for his job now with Logan McNaney. That job is not safe going into.
I think Owen McElroy is 100% going to start and win that job. 100%. I think he'll play the whole year.
Not what I said though. What I meant, what I'm saying is like more like he can't go in and be like, I haven't seen a ball in 6 months. Like you have Logan McNaney who'll make a deep run. He's a competitive guy.
Yep.
When's the last time Logan McNaney probably lost a starting job?
Were you surprised McNaney went first, or did you think he was going to go first the whole time?
He should have 100% went first.
Yeah. I agree.
Let me pose you guys this question.
A lot of people are talking about
you look at guys taken from this draft from a school perspective, Syracuse with the most in these 4 rounds at 4. Does that affect your decision on what Gates done at Cuse? I know we had this discussion in the pact about how he hasn't really done anything. V, you're like, if they don't go to the Final Four, this and that. Does that affect your kind of this decision on him not being a great coach, living up to the potential?
No, I don't. No one said that he's not a great coach. Like, obviously, he's one of the best in the game. I think where the criticism has come with Gates so far in his tenure is, look, this is Syracuse, this is Alabama, this is Ohio State, this is Georgia football, right? Like, it's national championship or bust. They're one of the few programs in the country, Syracuse, Maryland, Johns Hopkins, Virginia, those schools where it's like national championship or bust. It's not the same everywhere else. So the criticism with Gate has just been, look, like they haven't made a Final Four since 2013. Last year have made great steps getting to the quarters, but it's not like they've had the craziest regular seasons as well either. So that's where the criticism came in. But no one's, talking like Gates not one of the best in the game. He is. It's just like he's doing I think he's doing if he was doing that at a school that wasn't Syracuse, we would say he's one of the best coaches in the country. But when you're at Syracuse, it's if you're not making the national championship game, you're getting questions asked. I think that's the fair question.
What are we saying for top? Like, what's a top coach in the country?
Like, to me, like the top coaches, I'd say Tillman, probably the best coach in the country. I think.
But I'm saying, like, how deep does the top coaches go?
Top coaches.
This is gonna get us way off track.
This is a question.
How deep do you think it goes? 10?
Dude, elite coaches like
5.
5.
I would say 10.
So who are the 5 elite coaches in the country?
No, dude. How do you? Look.
I'd say Tillman. I'd say Lars. I would say what Madeline's done at Princeton, where he doesn't get transfers.
Tambroni.
You gotta say Danowski.
I don't know
if I have Danowski in the top 5 right now.
I think
that's a good question. We should bring this up again.
We'll bring that up in a future episode.
Well, I like that. I do really. I'm going to say right now that if I'm just using off the top of my head, I don't think Gates is a top 10 coach of the country. If I had to do the list,
who's your best in the country though, Dukes?
I think Corrigan and then Tillman. I don't believe that. It's Tillman and then it's Corrigan.
Tillman's the best coach. Dukes was like, wait, hold on. I got to re-say that.
Because
Mitch, who would you say, Mitch?
The one thing is what Corrigan's done.
Well. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the only thing holding Tillman back is the aspect that he's been to X Final Fours and only won 2. That's the only argument.
He's been to 10 Final Fours, 6 championship games, and only won 2. Yeah.
You guys won't say. You guys don't respond to this, and you guys shouldn't. But I even might put Myers right now above Gate.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way coaches.
I'll have to look at it. I'll have to look at it.
That's a valid take, 100%. The thing with Coach Myers is he develops players. That he doesn't get the most talented players in the country, and he said that.
It's not that he.
But how does he get? But if he doesn't do that, then how does he get every single kid on USA's 18 team? You're a dick.
No, what I mean. what I mean is he develops players that he doesn't get the most talented players in the country, and he said that. It's not that he. But if he doesn't do that, then how does he get every single kid on USA's U18 team? You're a dick. No, what I mean. Yeah, no, like the Buckeye way, like it's true. Like we were looking to bring in a guy and work hard and develop him and get a grittier player than take the number 1 kid from Calvert Hall. That's just kind of how it's been in Columbus.
I will say I'm really concerned about the Buckeyes. I found a very damning stat about them today. It's not looking good for them
What is it?
all. The only team in the country in the tournament, this is so bad. They're the only team in the country without a kid from Long Island. You got to take that into consideration when you think about this weekend.
Ohio
See,
State
that's
on
him.
their
That's just the
roster
way they do it.
does not do just. I don't know if this is an interesting point for the viewers. They don't have a player from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Massachusetts on their roster.
Anytime you got to keep. I mean, and he keeps people in Columbus at least, right?
Yeah, the guys
he
stay
always
the
gets
summer.
one
Yeah,
in class.
yeah.
But I think at the end of the
Danny
day, like,
Logan, Jack Hanna.
it's pretty cool. It's actually pretty cool in my eyes just to see like the fact that Garrett Haas, no name city from Texas, killing it. You know, you got Matthews and from Idaho. Like
Yep.
it shows all these states and cities that are coming together to play, and obviously they're doing great. So let's wrap it up here. That's going to conclude this episode. We obviously did, reactions to the tourney, PLL Draft. What are you most looking forward to next week, Dukes?
With lacrosse, man, I'm looking forward to these seniors fighting for their lives. I'm looking forward to talking about Chris Kavanaugh putting up 3-3 on Ohio State. I'm
Dukes,
looking
can
forward.
you promise me something real quick? And I want you to promise me this live on television.
Yes, Mitchie.
If Ohio State wins, nothing bad about them the rest of the playoffs.
No, we're on the same page. I'm at this point just screwing with you guys.
Well, I mean, we're playing against your team, so it is a little bit different.
Yeah. Did you listen to me last night? Did you listen to me last night? I said if Notre Dame wins, I'm on your side. I'm getting the Mitchell Pehlke Ohio State jersey.
If Notre Dame wins?
I'm coming to your apartment. I'm taking that jersey in the back. People are gonna be like, "Who took it?" It's gonna be like the greatest theft since the Boston Museum art robbery. I'm gonna steal that jersey. I'm gonna wear it every single episode. I'm gonna wear it at Gillette. I'm gonna be the biggest in the country.
Hey, don't forget, last time Ohio State made the Final Four, it was in Gillette in Boston. So Coach Myers is from that up in the woods up there. Coach Myers, little Maine cat up there, Mitch. That's his area up in New England. Come on now.
Yeah.
You guys saw it on my bracket.
I will say though,
they're playing Maryland and they're gonna win.
Looking into next week though, before we wrap it up here, Mitch, this is gonna go one of two ways. It's either gonna be Christmas morning for us next week, or it's gonna be,
or the Grinch is gonna be there,
or the Grinch is gonna be out. Yeah.
I'm not, guys. Don't worry. I would never rub it in your guys' faces. Like you guys had blood, sweat, and tears for that program. I would never rub it in your face.
Wow, that's respect. That's respect, dude.
Corey,
I love
put that on the loop. We'll see you guys next week.
Just kidding.